Now, he's going to talk on interventional oncology from the beginning to the future. I guess he's the best one to talk on this topic. Please, Thomas.
Dear Okan, thank you very much for this very, very kind introduction. But nevertheless, I think there are still some people that are more involved in the topic. So first of all, thanks to you, to your group of Congress organization, to having me invited. And I just explained to Okan, a very old and dear friend of mine, that I'm not possible to come because I'm here in parallel another meeting, an interventional meeting from Austria, Germany, and Switzerland, and we couldn't find a suitable flight plan to be in time with you. So we have to go back to this like of Corona solution of telemedicine, teleradiology, telepresentation. I mean, it's my very, very great pleasure to speak and have been invited from Professor Oka Akan, who I think who got Professor Emeritus right now, and it's a great pleasure and honor to with you now in this session. So for the next minutes, while I'm starting now my presentation, where is it? Should be here. I'm talking with you a little bit about interventional oncology, indeed at a matter of history. But I guess in a meeting with you like now, it's a little bit like rehearsing everything. And so I tried to make a twist what we all as interventional radiologists and interventional oncologists are facing in the next time, and how we can deal with our oncological business. So don't be astonished by seeing not that many cases or instruments of interventional oncology, but more concept and ideas around the world. So this is the timeline now from interventional radiology and with the focus on interventional oncology over the last, let's say, 4,000 years. So coagulative therapy in terms of thermal therapy is a very old thing. We know that from ancient paintings and pictures and reliefs. But indeed, the development of interventional oncology started in the mid-70s with the first attempts of hepatic arterial infusion therapies, chemoperfusion therapies, followed by the advent of TACE in the late 70s, early 80s from Japan, where we learned this therapy as an ideal therapy for HCC. Followed then by all the local therapies, by installation therapy, by alcohol, for example, and then all the thermal ablative therapies. And with the advent in the last 20 years of transarterial radioembolization, as well as several other treatments like HIFU or electroporation with chemoperfusion. This all was paralleled by a dramatic development in guiding tools, by CT, by MRI, by angiography, together with smart, in the latest years, with smart software tools for planning all these therapies. And again, I won't torture you with many details, because I think many of you interventional oncologists that are also world known are among the audience here. And one of a major promoter is one of your Congress presidents, I guess so. Nevertheless, the development for our discipline is from diagnostic imaging over interventional radiology in general to interventional oncology. And we were developing from skillful technicians to more like specialized interventional oncologists, because we have to deal with patients. So we are a treating discipline right now. Now that all sounds very, very well, very positive. So what we have achieved and maybe what we will be achieving in the next years, these are really a huge assortment of treatment techniques. Countless studies and trials are presented. They even found their representation in guidelines. We also could establish cooperation with other clinical partners, even with non-radiological societies. We are known as a driving force for innovation, and by this we are creating evidences, but also eminences. So is this really time to relax and to lay back? I guess no, because due to the dedicated persons, IR is well accepted and in many centers integrated in the oncological service, but still many centers are not providing this kind of service. So, and if you look globally, then the representation of interventional radiology and especially interventional oncology is quite different between in the same country and then among different countries. So, and with the let's say changing times around the world, especially we learned that for the last 2 or 3 years, we are not even sure what happens with the different healthcare systems, depending on the economic changes that also are happening around the world. Therefore, still a majority of patients are not really benefiting from our interventional and interventional oncological techniques and opportunities. Especially this is true if you look at competing specialties as oncology. And this is a timeline derived for oncology. And you see also it started many, many thousand years ago with surgery, then with the advent of X-rays. These were translated rapidly into radiotherapy. And then with the first ideas of chemotherapy in the almost a century ago, in the mid-30s and 40s of the last century, oncology started to establish itself as a specialty. Then there was the real step, the major leap, quantum leap in the 1970s and 80s with the introduction of newer chemo regimens like oxaliplatin and 5-FU and their combination therapies, and lately with the dramatic rise of biological therapies in terms of immune oncology. Therefore, there's an enormous driving force behind that. We all have to consider it's also really big business and big companies are behind that. So there's an enormous driving force. So that even oncologists are thinking that their specialty is developing into an immune oncology, medical immune oncological field. Now, only a few examples how we could compete them and where we could develop with respect to immune oncology. This is the example of the famous CAR T cells, and they should target a tumor. The problem with this is that they might address some parts of the tumor but because of tumor heterogeneity, maybe not all of the tumor is addressed, and still there is tumor cells are capable to survive. Combining, for example, this therapy with our interventional tools, we could, by our target and guiding tools, we could deliver CAR T cells directly in the tumor, can spread it out over the tumor. It could be by direct injection or by into the tumor or by infusing them into the tumor. So in contrast to the systemic application, we may be able to enhance the effect of this system of therapy. Is this only fantastic thoughts, or is it already something that is in developing reality? Some examples, what's going on there. This is a current study where we are, for example, participating, where we're combining now another system, a Y90 therapy with antibodies in biliary cancer. We know all about the dismal outcome in these patients. This is one way it started right now, and we will see what's going on with this study. Very smart thing is the combining of thermal ablation with direct injection into the tumor to generate a whole body reaction. So this is an ablation model and a standard ablation, and also as we all know, even from surgery, what is could be considered as ablative therapy as well, recurrence is not that uncommon. By combining it now with a special immune stimulator, we could stimulate by enhancing the uptake of stimulated antibodies to the tumor released by the ablation process, we could enhance the abscopal effect. And this is, again, in very early studies proven already, and this was in ESMO IO lately presented as a proof of principle presentation. And we are just around Europe, we are gathering the centers that are setting up the first patients treated with thermal ablation, for example, in colorectal cancer, combining with this injection therapy. So one message for the future is we have to create links, very strong links with immune oncology to bring the best of both worlds of local therapies, interventional local oncological therapies, together with immune oncology. Now, what is the future and what might the future bring? And as usual, that's the intrinsic issue of the future. It's unpredictable and is disruptive. And this is not really something new. And it's also true for radiology and interventional oncology. So if you have a look into the future, then we have to consider many factors that might influence our practice and that we have to consider. First of all, it's the growing population around the world. In the different European countries, inclusively Turkey, this is a little bit different. We have different aging countries, populations, with a proportion more to the elderly or with a proportion more to the younger. And this is a very recent from last week, an analysis from the McKinsey Institute. And this is this bubble representation of the aging companies with a forecast for 2040. So we see more the Asian, they are really over-aging. Germany is somewhere in the right corner. That's not the ideal. This is really a political discussion right now. Turkey is in a very interesting, in a more beneficial situation, with a good proportion of young people in comparison versus the proportion of elderly people. And this has many influences in terms of disease distribution, as well as economical power of a country. Nevertheless, over the world, it's considered that the oncological diseases will rise significantly in all countries with all developmental statuses around the world, between 95 and 30%, and this is the area of global Europe. But not only this is rising, the cancer diseases, but also with the aging population, we have other diseases that we have to compete with, and that are interacting with the other. This is the cancer bubble is the A in here. The cardiovascular is in here. The diabetes is that one. This is thanks to our lifestyle. Even neurological disorders with the aging are rising. So even if you're talking about cancer disease, we have to think about all these diseases around it, because in many situations, this will be the same patients. And this is one example for that, for colorectal cancer. This tells us about these different stages in metastatic colorectal cancer. In about 70% where we see metastatic disease, and the metastatic disease will happen in the elderly population. And in the if you have a look at the elderly population, talking about comorbidities, then the comorbidities will significantly drive the survival in this oncological to treat population as well. So as interventional oncologists, we have to be aware that we often have to adjust our treatments, or an oncologist has to adjust his treatments to these comorbidities. And with our minimally invasive treatments, I think we can add an excellent compound to serve even these patients and not deteriorating other diseases that are in parallel in these patients. Now, can we afford that? We are getting more people in the world. We're getting more cancer patients. That will mean that we also have to spend more money for that. So this is a general concept. If you look at many different analyses around the world, from different societies, different countries, different regions, then the demographic impact of the growing population will challenge healthcare systems. And for example, in Germany, you have a very tough discussion right now because we are running out of money for the hospitals. So it's considered that already 60% of the German hospitals are bankruptcy, literally right now. But if you look at the economical analysis of the connection between population development, healthcare, and economical development, then there are interesting results that with an increasing GDP, all independently all around the world, we have an increase in less death, better health condition, increased productivity, that is again resulting in potential increase in a positive GDP. So it's a self-promoting process. There's a little drawback that this prognosis were all made in 2019. So, and also this title of this paper was Could Rise, because at that time, all what we have, this disruptive developments over the last 2 or 3 years, we were not even aware of, and nobody's aware of what is coming on, is going on. So you could argue, is now this because we are facing that, and maybe in some countries you have a rising unemployment rate and less money for the healthcare system, is this translating automatically in a reduced life expectancy because of a higher death rate due to some diseases? And surprisingly, this was a very complex analysis together with the World Bank, that even if there are substantial deteriorations in healthcare, in the short run, they are not translating into mortality. So that is the good news. So if we compete with our challenges, the global challenges right now and the economical ones, this not automatically means that we will treat our patients in a poor fashion, causing earlier death rates or lower death rates in terms of an increased mortality. Now, what is going on and might influence and how we can compete with that, what is going to influence our service. So this is what the forecast for the next 20 years, our immediate future for spending in healthcare. And the most important thing is, at what we all experience, I think, in a daily practice, is that oncology, immunology has a dramatic growth forecast in growth for the next years, with an enormous additional spend of money in comparison to what might be spent in the next 2 or 3 years. So this is really big business, and where big business is, there's a lot of innovation, there's a lot of research, and these are figures and numbers, and we will see that in a moment that we might hardly compete with. And medtech solutions are somewhere in there, but the other thing is really, it's the major playground is unfortunately somewhere else. And this is really, again, this is already seeable. This is the numbers of TACE in Germany. So we know TACE is one of the standard therapies in hepatocellular carcinoma. And this was, remember the time when the Precision 5 study with the DEP-TACE was promoted. So we see an increase. This is, by the way, these are the figures from the German registry, the DGIR registry on all interventional procedures. So we saw a rise, and since the last 4 or 5 years, we see a decline, and this decline goes in parallel with the advent of the immunotherapies, the new immunotherapies for HCC that were also released in Germany. How the effects are in the last 2 or 3 years, it's really hard to tell with the Corona situation, because I think all of us, we saw a lot of less patients than usual because they didn't come to the hospitals. So there's one thing, it's what's going on in the medical development of pharmaceutical developments. The other is, are we still enough physicians? So this is the from the World Bank, the global view of physicians around the world. So in Europe, we almost have 5 million, about half in US, for example, for comparison. This is the distribution of oncologists. So we are in that area in here. So well, middle to well maintained by oncologists. As far it's possible to analyze, because in some countries an oncologist is not a specific specialty, so its numbers are not that much reliable. So I tried to give some estimates. So this, I found the numbers for Turkey. These are all MDs employed in Turkey up to 2020. 170,000, and the figures I found for radiologists, you might correct me then later on, it's about 3,300, maybe 3,500, roughly 2%. But I couldn't find any number, any figure about the proportion of interventional oncologists or even interventional radiologists. Maybe when you're with your meeting, you have the figures and we can discuss them later. So the proportion is not that different to Germany. This is from the official numbers, for example, from internal medicine, surgery, and radiology. And we know that the numbers are quite well from the societies. So we have about 800 to 850 certified IRs in our society, because almost everybody has to be in there. A quarter plus an unknown number is performing interventional oncology. They are well distributed all over Germany, but there's still a small number in comparison to all the SERSI members. So it's what might be the proportion among the SERSI members. But if you put them in relation to the other specialties, then we maybe have 250 to, in the best case, 500 interventional oncologists versus more than 12,000 surgeons and more than 25,000 internal medicines or oncologists. And this also is reflected in the type of liver procedures. You see this, the example, all liver surgery means benign and malignant, 16 million. Liver only about 320,000. Thermal ablations for malignancy less than 3,000. Though it's a factor of 1 to 100. So this is not very encouraging. So there's a lot of room for improvement. So we are obviously we are little, but we can learn from the bigs, but we maybe have to learn not to make the same mistakes you have seen, and maybe some of you have followed the development of Tesla and Elon Musk. So this is from the last year. The market share was quite big, and then he was buying Twitter, and now nobody knows what's going on in this kind of company. And also Apple, one of them at once, before Tesla, it was one of the most valued companies around the world, got in quite a trouble with a drop of the shares, with the value of the shares, by having a lack of suppliers, because the displays had been produced in China, and China was not delivering an iPhone display. So we have to reshape our strategies and to think what to do. And everybody of you, I think, knows Rahman, and he published a very nice Q's and A's interview about the challenges of radiology, and it's still the same for many years. It's the visibility, the low visibility in many instances. It's the workforce that we are forced to. It's to present the right training and a governance framework to train our people and also the next generations, and to get and to provide and to promote even the infrastructure that we have to work with. So the challenges are the staff, it's the changing generations that is really dealing with the workforce in a different way that older guys like me. It's the workforce itself. We have to standardize our practices, go more into the outpatient practice. And this is competed by the increase of emergencies in many societies, in many countries. The emergency cases, or at least the need for an emergency practice, increasing, taking away the capacity for other procedures. Imaging and IR machines, they are there. we have to take care in terms of money restrictions to replace them, and it's the workspace environment all over to keep it updated and to keep on with the developments like IT. But this is also not something usual. Everybody of us knows that for many, many years, and it walks with us. And therefore, we need to optimize our processes. And many of you, I guess, you have established an outpatient service and has organized the structures in your departments to deal with a patient without the other departments or with a perfect link with the other departments. Another issue is what is really going on with the staff of the next generations. And this was an analysis published 2 years ago in the Black Journal. And you see, so I think Okan and me, we belong to the baby boomers, and but the younger generations, there are much more, and the attitude and the work environment behavior is quite different. But the one thing is, these are all well-trained digital guys that are used to it, where we olders, we have fun with it, but maybe the access is not that easy anymore, like in the young generations. So we have to think about how to promote our residents and even the students, and to use their skills that maybe we are not that trained sufficiently in our youth, because they were not even existing, to translate them into their daily business, even the interventional oncology business. But at the same time, what's interesting that the newer generations, they are much more open to shift between the boundaries between the different specialties. And this might be one of a very important concept for the next years. Additionally, we're getting interesting tools, and we have to keep up to implement them as fast as possible, because there are interesting tools like clinical decision support systems that really make our lives easier, because they give us the data that we might need to treat our patients, especially in an oncological fashion, to have all this data under our fingertips. And again, for the young generation, it's not an issue to communicate with all these systems. For example, with chatbots, why not, as radiology and department, why not keeping up with your oncological patient with a chatbot that is asking every day or every week, how is it going after your TACE, after your Y90 therapy, and an AI in the background is analyzing the data and saying, oh, Mr. Smith is not responding, so we have to call him, or he was giving information via the app. There's a fever after 2 weeks after radiofrequency ablation. So we should check and catch up with him about a potential abscess. So we shouldn't be afraid about AI and some kind of weird development. Maybe some of you already have these nice cleaning robots in their home, but even almost every car, every dishwasher is equipped with kind of tiny intelligence. So this will overwhelm and overswim us over the next years. And I think the young generation is immediately able to implement tools like that. But you also have to promote a little bit next research. This is the R&D department from CERSI. It's just recently last year established, and we should use it because we have to create evidence. But it's also a tool that could help us, if we request it, to provide us with the right information that is easily available if you have to make clinical decisions, because the fundament of knowledge is produced there, and we should use it all together and promote it and fill in even more. How that works is, this is an example from how that works, how to implement research in the practice. This is from Arndt Vogel. Many of you might know him, and very active oncologist, about phase 3 trials in combination therapies. And if you look at the median overall survivals in HCC in here, you won't be very much impressed. Nevertheless, they were translated in many recommendations. So they are seen as an standard of care. And this was the way how they also entered, for example, the therapy in the current HCC guidelines. And you see how active other societies, because of the different numbers of members or active medical doctors are. This is a count from December in chemotherapy colorectal cancer, almost 1,000 studies. 2 studies about radioembolization at the same time for metastatic colorectal cancer as an interventional therapy. So again, really much room for improvement. So I'm coming to the end. All that together, we have to enhance the awareness and visibility. I think many of you know this. It's a few years ago. This study saying where an analysis was done is an interventionist already seen on a radiologist. So people didn't even know what an radiologist is. I don't know what these blank boxes means here. They were considering it as a nuclear radiation specialist. And if in thinking of a urologist and a radiologist, they were asking, what is a physician? So the urologist was considered to be a physician, while the radiologist was considered to be a technologist. So that means many patients didn't even know that we are providing something that could help them. So a lot to do in terms of promotion. And last but not least, if you consider come back to the economical impact of just the recent developments of COVID, wars, whatever kind, economically decline around the world, the impact of these economic restrictions will at the very end influence the healthcare systems in many countries. But because of the effectiveness and the efficiency of our at the very end and low costs, less costs of IO therapies, we could help to compensate these restrictions and optimize many therapies. And this is something that, again, we have to promote, and we have to present this enormous potential. But at the very end, we shouldn't forget our focus. What is the basic goal? It's to deliver the best possible treatment. We know that in interventional oncology, we have the evidence, we have the acceptance in the already working interdisciplinary groups, and we have the efficiency. And with an interdisciplinary care, and we shouldn't focus on a sole treatment by only us, it will be always a treatment together with many other specialties. During the disease continuum of the patients, we have to deliver a treatment continuum. And putting that all together, we will avoid the wrong incentives by focusing of making specific money out of a very specific procedure, coming to a value-based medicine, value-based treatment. So it was, maybe I hope you're not too disappointed that I was not talking about new devices and something like that, more what we are facing and where we have to place ourselves. Still, the view in the future is still mysterious, might be black, but there will be many more challenges. And the solution, again, like the several thousand years, is the human's bright mind. And in our specific case, it will be the radiologist's bright mind. Thank you so much. I hope I could deliver you some new insights. Thank you very much.
Thomas, thank you very much for your excellent presentation. As a keynote lecture, I'm very much satisfied what you presented. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Is there any question or contribution to the presenter? Okay. I don't want to make you more tired, Thomas. I guess in an hour, we are going to invite you for a short presentation as well.
Right.
And
this will be shorter then.
Yeah, okay. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you, Okan. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you.